Now we're going to talk about him being superior to the angels. The next 10 verses that finish this chapter are going to focus on his deity, but specifically in the context that he, Christ, is superior to the angels. That may sound strange to you, that may seem obvious to you, but it has implications that we want to really understand. Then in chapter 2, we're going to take up the virtue of that he's not just deity, he's humanity. The fact that he's God is part of the picture. It's half the other half, he's human. He's not some Gnostic apparition, and there's all these weird ideas. And we're going to also discover that he is superior because of the salvation he provided. All three of these issues are with respect in contrast to angels. That sounds like a strange frame of reference, but again, that's one of the pillars of Judaism, where the whole role and mission of angels. But as you go through this, there is a small group of verses that open chapter 2 that we're going to treat as if it's part of chapter 1. Doesn't matter. Is the first of 5 warnings. We'll get a taste of what that's all about. But we're going to be in this whole business of his deity. So we picking up now from the 3 verses. We took 3 verses last time, and it took us, half our time to catch up. Okay. The writer says, being made so much better than the angels, as he hath by inheritance obtained a more excellent name than they. Being made so much better. So he's above the angels. Now, inheritance is going to be a key issue, so I won't deal with it here. Now, let's talk a little bit about angels, because he's premising all this to contrast with angels. What do we know about angels? Well, the Jews regarded the angels as the most exalted of all God's creatures. That's why the writer is picking on them first. He's also going to talk about Moses and Aaron, a lot of other things, but he's starting with angels. The law, this shocked me to discover, but it's true. The law was given to Moses by angels. God gave it to them, but the angels were the means, if you will. You find that in Deuteronomy 3, Psalm 68, and twice in the New Testament, Acts 7:53 and Galatians 3:19. That surprised me. They were the agency here. God came from Sinai with 10,000 holy ones, Deuteronomy tells us. Now, in the King James, they say saints, but it actually should be holy ones, a term that's used there in the Hebrew, also in Psalm 68:17, is a term really used by the Jews of angels, not saints in a broader, amorphous sense. And if you were brought up with an Old Testament background, you would have a very high view of angels. If you really understand. The reader was a Christian, but he really had an Old Testament roots. And so that's a big deal. In fact, some of these angel appearances in the Bible are called by theologians theophanies, because the term angel of the Lord, angel of Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh, and so on, are terms that many scholars think are idioms for God himself appearing somehow. And some of them are regarded as a pre-incarnate appearance of Jesus Christ in the Old Testament. Appearance in the Old Testament prior to Bethlehem. The angel of the covenant, Malachi 3 and Exodus 3. The angel who delivered Hagar in Genesis 16. The angel that delivered Lot while the other two went and took care of Sodom and Gomorrah in Genesis 19. The Passover night, the death angel that got the firstborn was an angel. You don't mess with angels. Mm-hmm. The angels are, but as high as they are, the writer's going to emphasize they're created beings. They were present at the creation of the world. They shouted for joy. They were made. The scripture highlights that they were made, created, fashioned, use what term you like. They appear to be immortal, that is, in the sense they don't die. They weren't forever, they were created, but they don't have any apparent end. They're immortal. They don't die like we do. Heaven is their home. Those are all things you can develop from the scripture. They excel in strength, Psalm 103 and elsewhere. They're capable, apparently, of choices, because some of them chose to follow Lucifer in his rebellion. That's confirmed twice in the New Testament, 2 Peter 2 and Jude 1. They are capable of assuming all kinds of forms. They can be invisible. They can materialize. Demons can't materialize. Angels can. They're not the same. Fallen angels and demons are not necessarily the same thing. Angels can appear like men. Genesis 18 is an example. We're told in Hebrews chapter 13, we're going to discover that some of us may have entertained angels unawares. They can masquerade at our dinner table, we wouldn't recognize them. Stranger on the highway, whatever. On the other hand, they can also take on some pretty wild appearances. Matthew 28, they had countenance like lightning, raiment as white as snow. And you don't mess around with angels. 2 of them wiped out the major cities of Sodom and Gomorrah in an hour. One of them one evening destroyed 185,000 Syrian soldiers. One guy, one angel. You don't mess with angels. At the Egyptian Passover, the firstborn of the cattle and everything else was slain by the death angel. They're ministering, but they are God's ministers. They do his bidding. They also minister to God, apparently, Daniel 7:10. They are holy. They surround God's throne. Angels are seen doing battle on our behalf, 2 Kings 6 and several Psalms, several places. An angel stopped the mouth of a lion for Daniel in Daniel 6. The angel several times sprung people out of prison. Acts 5 and 12, that occurs. The writer picks 7 Old Testament passages to support that Christ is superior to the angels. He proves this from the Old Testament, not the New. I think that's interesting. We'll see those. By the way, there's all kinds of ranks of angels. They're not all equal. Thrones, principalities, powers in the angelic kingdom. And we assume, reason to believe, that there are different ranks in Satan's realm also. They apparently accept material food. In Genesis 8, they eat dinner. And they can appear in human form. I mentioned that. They never dwell in men's bodies. Demons do that. Angels don't. They don't need to. Ranks of angels. There are a handful of these that are distinct in the Greek. They're translated principalities, powers, thrones, and dominions. But the Greek terms that we find in at least 4 places and elsewhere imply ranks of angels. And we're not here to split hairs on that. But, there's 5 of them. One of them is translated power. 2 different words are translated powers, but there's 5 different ranks apparently.